I think that the gentlemen are ready behind the scenes, so please welcome to the stage Paolo Ardoino and Guido Brera.
All right. I think that you were all informed about the change of the speech will be in Italian.
So I'll skip to Italian. On the main stage we are having here at the Plan B Forum, we're actually speaking Italian now. I'm pleased to introduce to our community a person whom I've come to meet in the past 12 months. He comes from traditional finance. He's very interesting. He has quite a subtle, deep mind. He can assess politically, philosophically, and financially all geopolitical modern topics. Guido, so many positive words for you. You are actually raising the bar too much. Well, I wanted to introduce Guido to our world because it's important to understand how a person like Guido has actually experienced this all from traditional finance to the novelties. And the name of this fireside chat we're having together, Devils, which is a clear reference to the TV series you have created for Sky Italy, I believe. But before that, let's start with you. Who are you? What was your career? Tell us. Well, first, thank you. I'm truly honored to be here. I actually wanted to meet you 10 years ago. Thanks for all these positive words. I and Theater, well, we were actually a very good match because a very deep relationship actually started from the philosophical and intellectual point of view before everything else. So I was a very ordinary young man. I am not too much keen on maths, not even technology, so I'm quite a strange man. And I ended up with finance because at the time, at the beginning of the 1990s, there had been the Berlin Wall in 1989. This air of breeze of globalization was all around the world, and actually it was attracting all those talents who didn't know what they could do. Well, I had so many passions that they were mostly linked to reading. I spent all my life on reading and studying. So I picked finance just by chance. Because finance has something which is very peculiar, meritocracy. I have always been an asset manager, a fund manager. I co-founded an investment society company, Kairos. Well, you managed funds and you were 3 times awarded the best hedge fund award in Europe. So you are not truly that bad. Well, you pick everything very quickly. Yeah. Well, okay, I run shows every now and then because I have some showrunners and people from the showbiz in my family, but you are perfect, truly. Well, you cost too much. You should not become a TV showman. Well, hedge funds are funds that must offer return in all market conditions. There's a ranking, some prizes are awarded, and the Kairos, my own company, has been the leading fund. Kairos fund was the leading fund, has been like that for years at European level. It was a pity, however, because all our competitors were from the UK, US, We were the most romantic ones, but as Italians, we were not strong enough to structure our company as our competitors had done. I had studied at La Sapienza University, a public university in Rome, so we strongly relied on ideas and visions. But doing finance is being contemporary for me, being able to read the present, looking into the future. That's finance for me. I've always tried to work more on ideas and less with math. However, I had one of my colleagues who was more keen on mathematics, but the matching of the two was actually quite successful. So what are you doing now? Yeah, from finance, after finance, what are you doing? You have left that opportunity looking for new ones. Well, it's so nice to be here because it's so nice to open up. Well, my career was actually quite quick. I was the CEO of a London-based company when I was 30, and I was acknowledged as the leader in my sector. But now 25 years have elapsed, so the top peak of my own career actually came something like 20 years ago. 2007, 2008, something happened, we all know. Well, first I moved to the mountains. I had family problems. I've never been too calm. I've never been able to do just one thing at a time. I loved writing. And in 2008, there it came, the first moment when finance actually stopped working, because current finance dates back to the 1970s, 1971, when there was no more gold backing, right? That actually changed everything, I mean. And as we'll see soon, that showed how the experiment of national currencies without a true physical collateral, well, that's not a success, that's a failure. Actually, I and Paolo did not organize that, but he actually immediately understood what I wanted to tell. Well, I remember it was 1971 and a ship was sent to the US to pick up all the gold that France had actually stored at the Federal Reserve, and hence there was the moment when the new finance actually came up. You could start printing more money than the gold you have. Another milestone was in the year 2000, when all this system became one single thought. I've never criticized finance. I'm just trying to share what happened. In 2000, we had globalization and the euro. Globalization was not very well devised because you can actually delocalize. You can outsource to China. If you can't do that, you're suffering. Wages in China were so low, and then the issue with the human laborers' rights. So it was a great issue as regards labor. However, this situation had a very positive effect on inflation with a compression of wages. The Western countries actually ran up on the Chinese wages. They started talking about unemployment and the middle class suffering. So there was always this exchange, a masochist exchange, I would say, with China. Its rights against goods. You are waiving protection and you are running to buy Chinese goods which cost less. And there were the Democrats that actually did something very interesting to tell you, of course. Very, very in short, commercial banks merged into investment banks and actually replaced states being able to provide money. Globalization was deflationary in nature, so that was a very positive situation. Clinton was in the United States, and Clinton could actually provide a house, to all the Americans, because Americans could actually borrow money, and hence the subprime crisis actually started from there. Well, there's always a dream at the beginning of a nightmare, and the dream at the time was, the American dream had come in a different way. We can all do that. There are opportunities for everyone. It was not just a borrowed opportunity. The idea was truly to create the best economy in the world where everyone could actually have their own house and car. But actually, if you buy all these assets with borrowed money, they're not going to be yours. But that was exactly the point. That was the financial leverage. Then there was the price increase. Well, as a matter of fact, there was a book, The World is Flat, that talked about this wonderful world. Flat meaning equal opportunities for everyone, the American dream. But then you know how that was. 2008, a bank going bankrupt, from barter, political exchange, which exploded because you have waived on social rights, but then you can't do anything with those low-cost goods. And what happened with Lehman Brothers? It was quantitative easing at the time. I won't bore you, but that's something magical. Magical, I mean magic. So you can print money, and the Federal Reserve said, markets, be quiet, I'll save you. Actually, he had no solutions in the short run. So what I want to tell you is we have seen several mistakes and attempted solutions which actually caused other side effects and other issues. Hence, more money was printed, and that actually funded other issues. But if you can print on one side, you cannot think it has no side effects. It might take years or decades to do that, but actually it took less. And the whole system actually boomed.
Tu stampi denaro.
Yes, it's exactly what you say. You print money, and then with that money you buy public debt. But you have to explain this magic thing. You can do that only if inflation is low. At least the purchasing power of the money you are printing at that moment is protected. And this is what we call quantitative easing. Actually, they did something more on top of that. In order to facilitate these debt and debt of states, they started to work with interest rates. Interest rates are established by the markets, not only by the European Central Bank. So quantitative easing compressed all the curve of interest rates. On the other hand, in Europe, we were building the single currency. We were spreading the single currency, and I'm favorable, okay? But the single currency, euro, needed to be more gradual, more progressive. I think that philosophically speaking, this is a very important project. There was a great thinking behind of it, but then all of a sudden it stopped. And Merkel and Sarkozy, all of a sudden, well, they explained markets that Greece was about to go bankrupt. No country can go bankrupt, okay? So all the markets were scared and were very much concerned. Also, countries with a very high interest rate or a very high debt cannot fail. Yeah, in fact, so you can be a sovereign state with your sovereign currency and you can decide on what you do. You can also devaluate your currency. Italy, with the former currency, with lira, well, we could have printed as many money as we wanted. Obviously, there was a very profound effect on inflation. Italy could have made decisions on their own, but with Europe, we can say that nothing is ours. We are now subject to a European monetary policy, a common one. Yes, exactly. If you do not have sovereignty on your currency, you cannot save your country. That's why I decided to write a book. And in fact, philosophy became a political tool in this case. So for us, who did with finance, well, we were assigned a role we were not looking for, a role we didn't want, because if you buy the public debt of a country that can fail, that can go bankrupt, then you can ask for cuts in the expenses for school, for the healthcare sector. This power is called a biopolitical power. I was a kid and I was queuing to go to the university in Rome. I was waking up every morning at 4 o'clock. I was a baby boomer. I remember there were many people in Italy back in that time. It was the beginning of the 90s. Well, how did we take note at the university? We placed some recorders on top of the desk of the professor. And to me, finance was something interesting, to create ideas, to launch new ideas. Then all of a sudden it became a political tool. So I decided to write the screenplay of Diavoli, Devils. So you are an eminent personality in finance. You have been awarded as an hedge fund manager. With this TV series, you decided to tell all the problems related to this industry and the way this sector worked in the very heart of it. So it was something really aggressive from your standpoint, actually for your situation and condition. What did you try to do? Did you want to defend, to protect your industry, or you just wanted to diminish the criticism towards your industry? Actually, in the TV series, you go to the opposite direction. In the TV series, you say that finance is a system based on many problems. In the TV series, you show all these problems. And why don't you tell us what you wanted to explain with this TV series? What was the message dedicated to the readers or to the spectators of these Sky TV series? Well, I really felt a need of writing. At that time I was living up in the mountains, I was on my own, I was isolated, yes, and it was that was a delicate moment for me. When you write something, that means that you want to express your ideas, you need to share something with the others, and that means that you are not that good, you are not in a good shape if you feel the need of writing. So this TV series was born out of a personal need. So I decided to tell a breaking point in this TV series. Diavoli, devils, doesn't mean that someone is bad and someone is good. Actually, Diavoli is the Maxwell devil. It's the second principle of thermodynamic laws. Like Paolo said, when you print money, you always create a side effect. Well, the second principle of thermodynamics explains that you cannot transform all the heat into energy, otherwise you would have an eternal, a never-ending movement. In the same way, you cannot print all the money you want to finance the public debt of a state, otherwise you would have another side effect. So Diavoli, devils, were a group, an elite. They could be defined also monks. Well, this group, this small group, conquered the Western world, but they conquered the Western world due to a range of mistakes of the central banks, of huge hedge funds. So it was a sort of movement who took their decisions to create chaos. The second principle of thermodynamics is the base of life. There is entropy, there is order on one hand, and there is chaos on the other. And this second principle of thermodynamics is named this way because a person, actually a Scottish physic called Maxwell, says that this second principle is so true, is so much true, that if it weren't true, if there were order, we would need to accept the existence of a devil making order, creating order between cold molecules and hot molecules. If you take two different glasses of water, one hot and one cold, you mix them up, well, if there was order in this world, we would have the two separate glasses all the time. Actually, these two devils, in a period of our life, they manipulated, they managed the system in their own way, and they decided to create a frictionless system. In my opinion, this idea of friction is not understood by everyone. Some people cannot understand it fully and thoroughly. If you do trading, it is easy to imagine a world without any commission on our transactions. So from a certain point of view, it would be a perfect world. Try to imagine a trading platform with no fee, with no commissions. This would be the dream of any trader, but try to think about it. The commission is a friction, and without a friction, you do not have subsidies, you do not have incentives, you don't feel motivated to optimize your own strategy. You don't come up to the ability, to the capacity of understanding and identifying the right moment to sell and to buy. The same goes for blockchains. Without a mining fee, you create a friction. Well, without that friction, the system would just collapse, because people could just send many transactions and we would have spam, what we call spam. So everybody would send transactions, the system would collapse on its own weight, and people would send a transaction only when that transaction becomes truly important. Well, I would like to make a reference to a further mathematical concept, because sometimes I find myself explaining the concept of 1 divided for 0 divided by 0. We tend to think that the difference between 0.1 of interest percentage, the difference between 0.1 and 0 is a little difference. When you think about an interest, the difference between these two figures is actually a little, is small, but actually the difference is never-ending, is an endless difference. You cannot even calculate it. So, as far as we move the interest from 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, and the other way around, tending to 0, the result you can get on the world could be endless, could be never-ending. And this brought to the reduction of interest rates. This brought to the creation of an unpredictable system, or at least the impact that was created was unpredictable. All the actors in finance could have not imagined, could have not figured out something similar. They couldn't figure out something similar. Well, Paolo is using these disruptive mathematical concepts. If you put interest rates at 0, if you bring interest rates at 0, like the central banks did, for example, the Japanese central bank decided that interest rates must be 0. Well, if you think about it, this is just another attempted solution to fix something up, something that was not working, something that was not functioning. I've witnessed some business models starting with 0 interest rates. These 0 interest rates, well, they cancel the value of time, okay? This means that if you make money in 100 years' time, the money of the future equals the money of today, apart from the fact that this money moved huge quantities of capital trying to look for new performance. Well, so huge capitals well, they just moved and came across initiatives creating a disruption, a very aggressive disruption in the system. Today we are here in Lugano. So try to imagine that today we have zero interest rate. I would like to open a 6-star hotel and I could ask for a payment like other hotels with 2 stars. Obviously, my hotel has 6 stars, so it has impressive services and so on and so forth. So I can operate with a 6 stars hotel and the others would not close. So this would be my competitive advantage. This business model is related and based on zero interest rates, making sure that there was that there would be no friction. So you could have brought to the collapse of the future in the present. So you could have created some business models that have devastated, that have destroyed the old economy. You are disruptive people, and this is positive for you. But the way it happened, well, it was a trap for many countries, for many markets in the Western world, because without realizing it, we manipulated a whole financial system. And today, everybody's acknowledging that those zero interest rates were damaging, were harmful for the economy. You started to write the screenplay of Diavoli in 2008, and what happened back in that period? Well, we had the Bitcoin white paper on October the 31st of 2008. So you are an eminent personality in this sector. Why don't you tell us what you think about Bitcoin? You are still working in the world of finance, you have an eminent career, a prominent career. So what's the scenario for Bitcoin in the economic scenario? We have been talking for 25 minutes and we have just focused on Bitcoin. This is the only thing we talked about. Everything happened, and I would like to come here again to talk about this, but everything we talked about is just the cause of this effect, of this consequence. Satoshi Nakamoto, well, when he saw these queues in a bank, yes, in the European Central Bank, he saw this queue in the England Central Bank, in the Bank of England, okay? And he realized that we needed a change. We needed to think out of the box. We needed to abandon this model. We were trying to repair, to fix a model, but he decided to provide an alternative one. 36 trillion debt in the United States. Every day they create 1 trillion of public debt. Expenses for interest from 300 billions, well, it doubled in 2022, and then it doubled again. Right now, it has just doubled. It's $1.3 trillion. Yes, $1.3 trillion. And just to pay the debt every year, and I'm making reference to the US, but the same goes for Europe. China, for example, has a public debt related to the GDP above 100%, and then I'm talking about China, okay? What does it mean? It means that all this debt that has been created didn't have any didn't multiply the GDP, didn't increase the GDP, okay? The GDP just stayed there. It is standing still. So the Bitcoin is just something that mirrors what we do. So the more you create, the more you print money and the more you make debasement, please remember that real inflation is not 3, 4, 8%. Actually, real inflation is much higher. If you take a look at a breast scan, a breast examination, if you take a look at the trophy asset cost, well, you realize that you have eroded and deteriorated a huge purchasing power. And the value of Bitcoin is related to all the mess traditional finance did in these past few years. The more traditional finance uses leverage and debt, the more they print money, the more they print coins, and etc., the more politicians make electoral promises. And I'm making reference to the Western world, but not only to the Western world, okay? Because we are all exploiting hyper-aggressive monetary policy. Well, the more we do this, the only mean we have to defend our money is never-ending. Bitcoins are millions and millions. So the more you print, the more the price of the coin is going to go up. Okay, the alternative to Bitcoin could be gold. Now, I've been talking to some people before. Someone was talking about some new catastrophic events, but the Bitcoin is the money created by and ruled by mathematics. So I think that we took several attempts. We have tried it out with gold, that is still working. We have tried it out with currencies created by the human being, created and ruled by by politics, but politicians change every mandate, and they decide to print more or less money according to their political plan. The only money we have, the only money we have, and that we know that will work for sure due to mathematical principles, is Bitcoin. Yes, exactly. Bitcoin was adopted by finance itself as a value reserve. In fact, take, for instance, assets allocation. If you go to talk to clients, the most sophisticated one, they all have an asset allocation in Bitcoins. So I think that since 1971, we have a clear understanding of the reason why Bitcoin was born in 2008 and why it increased in value. I have a pessimistic view regarding the political setting, the political configuration, and the monetary configuration of the Western world, and also of the whole planet. Because voters want to receive promises, and until states will print coins and coins, there will be this hidden tax, which is inflation. And the only way we have to tackle inflation is relying on a real asset. And the real asset, the only real asset we have apart from gold, is our Bitcoin. Well, I think I would leave it there, because this is the paramount message we want to share. Yeah, this is what people were expecting from a profile like you. This is the message I wanted you to share with our audience. You know the sector very well. You narrated, you told the story through this TV series you wrote. Sometimes people are concerned about annoying people, but actually people, well, they still want, because they still want to keep the establishment, to keep things as they are. On the other hand, you started with traditional finance, and then you unveiled all the hidden plots of this traditional finance. In my opinion, you have an holistic view, and you are one of the few. That's why I really wanted all of you to listen to Guido's remarks. Thank you very much. The most important thing is explaining what is going on, okay? Thank you.
Grazie.
Grazie.